Are we ready to go? Good. Right, well, good afternoon, everyone. I've never seen so many people make the wrong choice in their life. They could be in a gin festival in a cathedral, and you're all stood here. Now, in case, I think probably most of you know who I am, but if you don't, I'm Tim Boson. I'm chair of the Blue Plaques, St Albans. Blue Plaque St Albans is a voluntary organisation represented by many bodies, and I'm glad to see many representatives here today. And our job is to put up blue plaques, and this is our 9th blue plaque. And I have to thank Robert and Joanne Morris very much indeed, because it's their property, but also they've sponsored this plaque. So thank you very much. A round of applause for them, please. Yeah. So I'm not going to say too much because we're outside, and I'm going to hand over in a moment. But back in 2014, some of you might remember that an exhibition was held in the cathedral and what is now the museum and gallery for E.R. Hughes. And we decided to label him the last of the pre-Raphaelites, because he was very connected with the pre-Raphaelites, and Professor Geraint John will tell you about it, because Geraint was the instigator of that exhibition and a revival in a way of a pretty unknown artist, if we're honest. After his exhibition, of course, there were copycats, and there was a big exhibition at the Birmingham City Museum about him. But dear old Edward Robert Hughes, known to his friends as Ted, had been very famous in his time, but later on wasn't really very well known. So thanks to Geraint, and I actually did 3 talks on him, didn't I, as well, but there was fundraising for the museum and gallery, so that's how long ago it was. Anyway, I'm going to hand you over to Geraint, who's going to say a few words, and they will be quite a few, I think. Yeah.
Only a few.
Geraint,
thank you very much. Thank you very much for coming. Sorry about the weather, and we had no control over it, but we're here to represent this lovely occasion of the Blue Plaque, and for me to just say a few words about E.R. Hughes. We call him E.R. Hughes, Edward Robert Hughes, and of course this is where he lived, and that's the importance of this ceremony in the rain. He was born in good company. He had an uncle called Arthur Hughes, who was a very famous pre-Raphaelite painter in his own right, and he was educated at the Royal Academy. He was an outstanding student. He had a silver medal and came out with great honour, and was also a very handsome young man. He was used by many people for modelling, for being a model for the paintings that they did, and even Rossetti used him. And then after that, after his experience, Hughes entered the studio of Holman Hunt, very famous pre-Raphaelite artist, but who was also at the end of his career because his eyesight was deteriorating with age. And so Hughes was an assistant in that, and contributed to much of Holman Hunt's works at that time. He contributed to the painting of The Lady of Shalott, but most importantly, he was involved with the painting called The Light of the World, one of the most famous paintings in the world at its time, and 3 versions were painted, one of which was painted by E.R. Hughes, and that's the one that's in St Paul's Cathedral. So his skills were brought to measure in a wonderful way. After this, he then entered his own career because he went into drawing up watercolours, which became famous. They explored the themes of night, dawn, and with the addition of fairies and figures within that, and they became the reason why E.R. Hughes became famous, and these were the masterworks of him. Now, so that's his life up until now, and in 1913, E.R. Hughes moved here. He was thrilled with St Albans. He wrote that he loved the mystery and the history of the place and was very impressed with it. But unfortunately, of course, as we know, within a year he had caught appendicitis and died in April 2014. His funeral was held in this cathedral. It was the largest...
1914.
Yeah. It's 23rd of April. He was the largest ever held up until last time, and he's now buried in Hatfield Road Cemetery. And so lastly, Tim has already said, we know him, we gave him the title of the last of the pre-Raphaelites, and we're delighted that we now have the plaque to honour him and maybe incite people to know a little bit more about this absolutely wonderful artist. And thank you very much for standing and listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline. Thank you, Caroline. And before I do some parish notices about what's going to happen next, can I just welcome two great grandnieces of E.R. Hughes. Thank you so much for coming. I'm sorry you didn't bring better weather though. It's lovely to have some relatives here. Plaque's marches on, and we have several in the pipeline now. Likely to be perhaps Thomas Kitchen next, 7 Fishbowl Street, the cartographer. We've got Betty Entwistle, the first female town clerk and CEO of a local government, and I'm not sure it's appropriate, but the plaque will be going on the Saints and Sinners, which was of course the Grange and is now a pub. I'm sure she'd be delighted. And also we have lined up, which will be quite exciting, we have Arthur Melbourne Cooper, the first animator in Britain, who had a cinema on the site of where the Odyssey is now. So it'll be going up there. So lots to look forward to. Can I just thank all of you for coming on this horrible, horrible day. Thank you, those of you who have sponsored us, because we do rely on fundraising. I have to get that in, otherwise my treasurer gets annoyed. And we look forward to seeing you again. And thanks once more, a deep thanks to the Morrises for allowing us to put the plaque up, for sponsoring it and coping with us today. Thank you very much indeed, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.